Gen Z. The financial system was designed to keep you broke. Here is the exit. You are working full-time, and you still cannot afford to move out. That is not a character flaw. That is a designed outcome. And by the end of this video, you will have a 3-step framework to start breaking out of it, starting this week, even if your income has not changed. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you is not a budgeting tip. It is the dark psychology behind the system you were handed, which was never designed to work for you in the first place. Here is why this is more urgent than you realize. The American Psychological Association's 2023 Stress in America report found that 77% of Gen Z adults report money as a significant source of stress. Not occasional worry, significant chronic stress. The kind that elevates cortisol, impairs decision-making, and makes every financial choice harder than it needs to be. And here is the dark psychology piece that nobody is talking about. Chronic financial stress is not just a side effect of a broken system, it is a feature of one. A population that is financially stressed, financially illiterate by design, and financially dependent on institutions is controllable. That works longer hours for lower wages without organizing. That accepts debt as a normal condition of existence. That leads to consumption decisions driven by a scarcity mindset that benefits the very systems that create the scarcity. You were not failed by the system. You were processed by it exactly as intended. Here is what the dark psychology of financial control actually looks like in your daily life. The first mechanism is debt normalization. Student debt in the United States exceeded $1.7 trillion in 2024. The average Gen Z graduate carries between $25,000 and $37,000 in student loan debt before earning their first full-time paycheck. But here is what dark psychology reveals about how this happened. Debt was not sold to you as a burden. It was sold to you as an investment, as the price of entry into a life worth living, as the responsible adult decision. The language around student debt was carefully constructed to make taking on decades of financial obligation feel like ambition rather than what it actually is. A transfer of your future earning potential to financial institutions before you were old enough to fully understand the transaction. This is a manipulation tactic applied at a generational scale. The target was not you specifically. The target was an entire generation that needed to be financially leveraged before it developed the critical thinking to question the terms. The second mechanism is housing market engineering. The median home price in the United States in 2024 was approximately $420,000. The median Gen Z income is approximately $40,000 to $50,000 annually. By traditional mortgage qualification standards, you need a household income of roughly $100,000 to comfortably afford the median home. The math does not work, and it was not supposed to. Research on housing market psychology shows that a generation locked out of homeownership remains in a permanent renter class that consistently and reliably transfers wealth upward. Institutional investors purchased approximately 26% of single-family homes sold in the United States in 2021. They are not buying homes to live in them. They are buying the homes you were supposed to buy to extract rental income from you for the rest of your working life. This is covert control operating through economic architecture rather than direct psychological manipulation. The outcome is identical. You are dependent. You cannot build equity. You cannot accumulate generational wealth. And you are paying someone else's mortgage every single month while being told the solution is to make your own coffee at home. The third mechanism is consumption as identity. Gen Z grew up with social media algorithms that tied self-worth to visible consumption. The phone, the outfit, the experience posted, the aesthetic is maintained. Research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology shows that identity-based consumption, buying things to signal who you are rather than because you need them, is significantly more resistant to budget constraints than functional consumption. You will cut food before you cut the thing that tells the world who you are. The dark psychology here is precise. When consumption becomes identity, the financial industry no longer needs to convince you to spend. You convince yourself. And every dollar spent on identity maintenance is a dollar, not building the financial foundation that would eventually make you independent of the system extracting it. The fourth mechanism is the suppression of financial literacy. The United States does not require personal finance education in the majority of its high schools. This is not an oversight. A financially literate population asks different questions. It negotiates differently. It saves differently. It organizes differently. You were sent into the most financially complex period in modern history, navigating student debt, a volatile housing market, gig economy income instability, and inflation spikes, with zero formal training on how any of it works. And then you were blamed for the outcomes. Here is where the dark psychology of financial control gets most insidious. The system does not just take your money, it takes your belief in your own capacity to build it. Research on financial self-efficacy shows that chronic financial stress significantly reduces a person's belief in their ability to improve their financial situation. This reduces the actions they take, which produces worse outcomes, which confirms the belief. The cycle is self-reinforcing, and it was engineered to be. You stopped believing the math could ever work for you, not because it cannot. Because you were kept in a state of stress and scarcity long enough that the belief collapsed before the actual options were exhausted. Here is your three-step exit framework. These are not motivational suggestions. These are documented behavioral interventions that produce measurable financial outcomes starting immediately. Step 1. Separate your financial identity from your consumption identity this week. Pick one category of identity-based spending in your life right now, not functional spending, identity spending, the thing you buy because of what it signals about you rather than what it does for you. Pause that category for 30 days, not forever, 30 days. You are running a test to see whether the spending is serving you or whether you are serving it. The psychological discomfort you feel when you pause identity spending is itself diagnostic data. The stronger the discomfort, the more that category has been functioning as a psychological dependency rather than a genuine preference. The money is secondary. The information about your own psychological relationship with consumption is the primary output of this step. Step 2. Build one financial skill this month that the system never taught you. Not a general financial literacy course. One specific skill. Pick the one that directly addresses your biggest current financial pain point. If debt is your primary stressor, spend 4 hours this month learning specifically how debt avalanche and debt snowball repayment strategies work, and which one applies to your specific debt structure. If housing is your primary stressor, spend 4 hours understanding exactly what institutional investors are doing in your local market and what the documented alternatives to traditional homeownership look like, including house hacking, co-buying, and geographic arbitrage. One skill, 4 hours, applied to your specific situation. The system kept you financially illiterate because financial literacy produces financial agency. You are building back the agency it removed. Step 3. Find one person who has solved the specific financial problem you are facing and study exactly what they did. Not a financial influencer selling a course. A real person in your actual network or accessible community who was in a similar position to yours 2 to 5 years ago and is now in a meaningfully different financial position. Ask them one question, not what should I do? What specifically did you do first when nothing seemed to be working? The answer to that question is more valuable than any generalized financial advice, because it comes from someone who navigated the same broken system you are navigating, not from someone explaining theory from a position of inherited advantage. The system was designed to isolate you financially, keep you comparing yourself to people above you, and cut off access to people just ahead of you who have already found the path through. One conversation changes that. The financial system was designed to process you. The dark psychology behind it is real, documented, and older than you are. But documented systems have documented exits. And the exit starts with seeing the system clearly rather than blaming yourself for the outcomes it was designed to produce. The next video in this series goes straight to the second thing destroying Gen Z right now. You know all the therapy language. You know what burnout means, what attachment styles are, and what trauma responses look like. And you are still completely alone. That video is in the playlist linked in the description. Watch the full series in order. Every video builds on the last. Subscribe to Dark Psychology Exposed Lab and hit the bell so you never miss a drop. Drop one word in the comments that describes your current relationship with money. One word. I read every single one. We expose what dark psychology hides.